Hey there, everyone. Welcome to today's Helm Weekly Developer Call for Thursday, February the 15th. This call is recorded, so please turn off your camera if you would not like to be visible. And we will start today's call. I will find the meeting notes and I will stick them in the Zoom chat and see what we have in the agenda. So Matt, with the announcement, and I will share. Are you muted, Matt, still?
I'm muted. I'm talking away. All right. Helm came out with a release. It is a Valentine's Day release. It's our Pi release 3.141, right? Yeah. And it's a security release. There was a CVE, and that's all it contains is that fix. So interesting little thing. So that came out. And so everything that was supposed to be in 3.14.1 will come out in 3.14.2 next month. And that's it.
Cool. So Jordan, and actually I should have probably before announcements asked if you want to introduce yourself and say hello, since I don't recognize. I'm not sure if you've joined us before.
Yeah, I have not. I'm one of Bridget's colleagues from Microsoft. I'm an engineer on AKS, and so I'm involved. I lead the team that happens to use Helm the most. So I'm just looking to kind of have a couple of questions I dropped in the doc, but just want to generally kind of get in touch and stay in touch with where Helm's headed and see if we can't help out where possible. Yeah, good to meet you all.
Awesome. Thank you for joining. Thank you for asking Jordan to join Bridget. Do you want to take on the Helm 4 question, Matt, or?
Sure, let's talk about the question. We can start with Helm 4. Are there any public docs on it? Probably a few, actually. So we recently started talking about it in earnest, about what do we want to do and how are we going to do things. I think the gist is there is a bunch of cleanup we want to do. Things like move to ORAS v2, clean up the CLI, make SDK improvements across the board. There are a lot of things there we want to do. Things we don't want to do, we're not going to break existing charts. Existing charts should all just continue to work. A lot of this will just end up being probably things to clean up Helm and improve that experience, both as a client user and an SDK user. So that's really where we were looking at right now, the kinds of stuff that we want to do. There may be some things we want to introduce into charts, but nothing has really jumped out there, and it would be completely additive. And you'd be able to tell, and still older versions, you'd run the older charts, so to speak, without any problems. That's the gist of it. We're really just getting started in earnest to figure out what do we want to do and where do we want to do things. In order to get that kick-started, we're probably going to go through and do some maintainer cleanup, things like that. There's some legacy maintainers around. There's some people who will probably vote in to have some new maintainers to help with that. And really, we're going to slowly figure out what we're going to do and get started. Whatever we do will probably be time boxed. We're not just going to say Helm 4 opens and goes for forever. We'll probably do something like a 6-month effort, do a bunch of work around it, and then cut a Helm 4. We've also talked about Helm 3 support in the time frame. When we went from Helm 2 to Helm 3, I think we ended up going maybe a little longer than we wanted, but we had like a year of support. We had something like 6 months of support for certain bug fixes and Kubernetes upgrades, so you could keep going. And then another 6 months of security fixes. So if there were any CVEs that came in, we would fix them across Helm 3 and Helm 2. We'll probably adopt something along that same line just to give people a nice transition time. And these are the kinds of things that we're looking at. Is there something, I'll ask, is there something specific you're looking for out of a Helm 4?
Yeah, I mean, we have some interesting challenges. I guess I'd say on our team, we use Helm as part of the I guess I could say part of the control plane of a large managed service. So it's not exactly an everyday use case. We have, yeah, a small number of kind of I don't know, feature requests or bugs. There's some things we've encountered that I'm curious if you plan to address in Helm 4, and maybe we can help address them if not. But one of the big ones for us is release size limitations. That releases are stored in secrets, so they can't be larger than a megabyte, and we have really large charts and really large sets of values. So we pretty routinely come up against that limit. So I know there's support for external storage, but it's not necessarily well vetted, as I understand. Not a lot of folks using it in production. But yeah, I'm curious if that is on your radar, like at all with Helm 4.
So that actually came up in Helm 3. So we obviously have the SQL storage. Postgres is the one that's supported as a first-class citizen. I don't think there's a lot of use of it, but we don't have metrics on it. We don't get many bugs on it. I doubt it's very highly used, but that's what we have told folks. I mean, the reason we use secrets is because there are a number of people who will use Helm and they don't have access to install, controllers, other things into their cluster. And then how do you manage if you're going to have a data store in your cluster? And, do we have to set up and manage Postgres? What happens when you just get people who just get access to namespaces to install stuff like Postgres or something in their namespace and they're not cluster admins? How do you handle different people with different permissions and storing databases around? It becomes a very complicated problems, and secrets were an easy solution. And if you need something more complicated, now there was talk a little while ago about doing chunking in secrets. I know, terrible idea. It was a solution that came to us was, hey, let's use multiple secrets to store larger sizes. I don't like it. I mean, in many ways, it's like storing your application data in Windows registry. It's not exactly where you want to store it, but it is what we have. And so we are looking at better ways to do this. So suggestions are definitely open to that, either improving the SQL system, chunking, or alternatives we haven't thought of. Figuring out how to do that is something we're very open to. And we've discussed, but nobody's come forward and built another solution to it yet. There've just been conversations.
Cool. It makes sense. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, I have the side thought that, I mean, Helm uses secrets because that's the only kind of mechanism that Kubernetes provides natively. If Kubernetes did provide something better, then that would be also good for Helm. I just don't know exactly what the form of that would be, because obviously Kubernetes uses etcd, and but secrets aren't exactly the as Matt says, not exactly the correct solution, but
They're what we've got. And they had to fit a specific use case. We did sit down and interview people at various companies, look at the restrictions they had for installing and who had access and things like that. And that's what led us down the route of secrets. Okay. So yeah, Jordan, if you all have ideas, we're happy to talk.
So for Helm 4 as well, yeah, one of the important things that Matt brought up is the Helm project is a little understaffed, maybe is not quite the right word, but so certainly people who could contribute time, I think, was very much on Matt's agenda, that before we even start to kick off Helm 4, that we got to have people who can actually do the coding. It's got to be pointless just to start the process and then then do nothing because no one's got time. So if you'd like to be in the loop here, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, that is one of the things. We haven't kicked off Helm 4 so far because of maintainer shifting around. We had a number of people run off to startups. We've had other people get promoted into senior level positions where they don't have the time they used to have. We've got some people who changed jobs. Some of them lost. We've had other people who've more recently starting to find some time again. So there's just been some shifting sand around maintainers, and we're trying to work that out to make sure that when we enter into a Helm 4 commitment, that we're actually able to close out on it and it doesn't sit open and nothing gets done. That's the other reason that we haven't started Helm 4 is we have to figure that out. But Now that I'm not on the TOC anymore, I'm hoping to carve out some time to help straighten that out, have free cycles again.
Did your term end?
Yes,
2 years goes by so fast.
it does. It does. And that takes a lot of work. So that's what's going on. So Jordan, do you have other things you wanted to ask about here with Helm?
I'm not hearing
I
the audio.
I have one other thing.
Oh, Jordan, it looks like your internet at this cafe is starting to be bad. Maybe try turning video off. Yeah.
I'm
Oh
still not
dear, we're
hearing
not
anything.
hearing him. Well,
Uh-oh.
I will point you to the doc because he definitely did mention the CRD patch semantics.
Okay.
He was
So the
worried
CRD,
about the yeah.
I can answer this one. So the reason that CRDs use a two-way, oh, Jordan, you there?
But um,
Internet. It is the
Nope.
worst.
All right. So his other question was around the CRD patch semantics. The reason it uses a two-way merge is because when Helm instituted using the three-way merge, it wasn't supported for CRDs at the time. And we'd need to do an opt-in flag to do that. And people have talked about it, but I don't think anybody's done it yet. And so we just need somebody to create the functionality to use a three-way merge. In Helm 3, make it an opt-in flag, because we have to have reverse compatibility here. And then in Helm 4, we can just turn it on by default. But that's the reason the three-way merge was used, is it was just built before CRDs had that ability, and nobody's added it since. So if you want to add it, I'll review that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Farina.
There's also,
Jordan.
I did on the subject, I made a hip for server-side apply. If that's, I mean, I think it could be solved with the existing three-way strategic merge patch. But also if server-side apply made more sense, especially server-side apply can be a little smarter around arrays and things. If anybody has time to review that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I need to review that. We got to look into how that works for templating and disconnected when you're not connected to the cluster, because there are a lot of people use Helm in a manner where there is no cluster connection, and maintaining that. That's where server-side apply. We've got to look at the details. Yeah. Jordan, if you have other questions, please drop them in and we can try and answer them. All right. I'll be quiet, George, and give it back to you.
Awesome. Hey, Scott. I have a SDK examples PR to the docs if anybody has a time to review that. Hopefully it's fairly straightforward and easy to review.
I can work on reviewing that.
Awesome. I added a item to the hip review section. This is Dominique, I think it is hip for he wants to add Git-based dependencies. I took like an initial pass through this. And address some of my initial comments. If anybody else has any other thoughts, in general, to me it seems workable. But my main concern was kind of around like, what happens if you package a chart with a Git dependency? Like, should it be allowed? Because you'd be kind of like, well, sorry, the package will have vended the dependency. But at least today, when you package charts, you're referring to like an immutable reference. So if you had a Git-based dependency and it pointed to the main branch and you packaged, that wouldn't be a repeatable process necessarily. So there's like certain things around that kind of thought. But I think his intention was to make it easier for development. So I think there is a use case. We just need to probably worry more about the non-development aspects.
Okay, I can take a look at that, hopefully, eventually.
Awesome. I think that's everything on the agenda.
Well, I see Jordan has another question. I do have one other question. I'm reading it from chat. Any hope of getting an official Helm operator, i.e. not part of the Flux ecosystem? So we had talked about this in the past, and we haven't done one because there are others who wanted to do it. And Helm has kind of said, here is where we are in the separation of concerns. And if somebody wants to build something that moves beyond that, then, we're not necessarily going to step into it. So we had talked about doing one at one point, but there are now multiple Helm-based operators out there. Flux is probably the most well-known, but there's actually a few others out there. And so as to not compete with them and stay within our core competency, we just didn't go there. So that's why it was kind of deemed out of scope for us, just to be non-competitive. And there were others doing it. So that's really the reason of it. We're not trying to boil the ocean or scope creep over here. If somebody else wants to do it and is willing to do it as a project, we're more than happy to let them do it and even point to them.
Cool. Thanks. Makes sense.
Actually, I remembered one other important thing. We are having, sorry, from the subject of Helm 4, to go back, we are having a weekly, it's kind of just started as a little bit ad hoc call to discuss Helm 4, if you're interested, Jordan, as well. I should have mentioned that earlier, forgot. And that is
When
midday
and where
Pacific.
is it? Because I was trying to find the link and I saw something in the notes about, and this call happens sometime, maybe on the same Thursday. And it didn't
happens
have
here.
like specifics.
Yeah,
So
so
it's in
easy
this room. What
this
time?
one, midday Friday, midday Pacific Friday.
Is it being added to the calendar or?
Not yet.
Yeah, it's been a little ad hoc so far. I think we've met twice over the last few months. Managed to meet twice over the last few months, but
Okay, so
the
midday
more-
Pacific, 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, like that on Fridays?
Yep.
Okay.
So if people are interested, certainly, I think we're happy for people to. I mean, I'm sure we're happy for people to join. Right, Scott? It's been a little try to like get things into motion and very initial. We're not really discussing features; it's more process. But if people are interested, of course. Let me think. Right. Any shout outs from anyone here today? Shout out to Jordan for joining us since we always welcome new faces.
Oh my gosh. I'm like halfway through this. I just joined just in case there was something, so I'm glad there was for me. Shout out to Bridget for haven't seen you. Well, it's good seeing you on these meetings and like all the things that you do behind the scenes. Also, I mentioned this to Matt Farina, but shout out to George for all the work he's been doing as a triage maintainer. It's far exceeded that. And I'm about to send a nomination for making a full maintainer through the mailing list. Thought I would at least just mention it because it's kind of a shout out. So
awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying helping out, so it's great that it's been helpful. Thank you. All right, I'll continue to moderate on. Social media, we don't have Karen. I don't know if we want to stick the CV, the patch release on Twitter, Matt.
Oh, already done.
Already done? Okay. So that's
already
taken
done.
care.
Yeah, and it's gone out from the Helm project too. So we're good.
Perfect. All right, assignments. Moderator. Notes, issue triage, PR review. I would like to try and find some time to review some stuff. It's not going to be strictly reviewing PRs. I need to focus on trying to get that values thing sorted out so that We'll be just reviewing PRs more.
I will not have time in the next week to deal with issue triage or PR triage. I know that. Next week I can show up and do notes or moderation, whatever. But I know in the next week I will not have the time.
I'll see you down as moderator, Matt.
Okay.
And we'll figure out notes, and I can have a look at the issues as well. But I do want to try and focus on the on this value stuff. Anything else before we wrap up?
Just good to see everyone. I'm excited that I have colleagues and able to hopefully get to come to this more frequently.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Alrighty, everyone. Have a good day. And
Bye.
Scott, will you be able to meet tomorrow, or Matt?
Yes, I will.
Okay, awesome.
Maybe. I'll try.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because did we say you said it was I mean, I think we've been doing it at noon, and I'm sorry, you said midday?
It's midday Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. 3
not
p.m.
sure.
Eastern, noon Pacific. So midday.
Oh yeah, 3 p.m.
It always
Eastern,
depends where you are in the world.
I use my time zone. I'm lazy like that. But
yes, I can do it. And just
awesome.
thank you.
Alrighty, right.
Bye.
Thank you all. See you later.